focusing on the structural differences between the respiratory systems in fish and
Every
mammals.
creature needs oxygen to survive. It is something that all organisms cannot do without for more than a few minutes. Oxygen cannot be stored in a large quantity, so it must be continuously taken in from the environment.
How each species does this can depend on the environment they are in and the respiratory systems. Fish and mammals have very different respiratory systems due to the very different environments they are in.
We'll start off with the respiratory system of a fish. They use their gills for gas exchange. Within the gill slits of all fish are a set of gills. The gills are made up of the gill arch, which have gill filaments that branch off it for increased surface area, meaning larger quantities of gas can be exchanged. Gill slits are located on either side of their head in the gill chamber. They are protected by the gill cover called the operculum. Fish swims, water travels into its mouth to the gill filaments, which branch off the gill arch. They are made up of a series of flattened plates called lamellae. Blood flows through capillaries in the lamellae in the opposite direction to the water, allowing the blood to obtain oxygen from the water as they pass, and for water to obtain carbon dioxide from the blood for disposal. This process is called countercurrent exchange.
Lungs in terrestrial mammals such as humans depend on the difference of pressure from inside the lung to the external environment. The anatomy of the mammalian respiratory system starts with the mouth and nose. This is where air enters into the body. The pharynx and the larynx, also known as the voice box, is another important part of the respiratory system because they direct the airflow from the throat and into the trachea instead of allowing the air to pass into the stomach. The trachea itself is a cartilaginous tube that connects the larynx to the primary bronchioles. The diaphragm is a powerful muscle that is located inferior to the lungs. This pulls air into the lungs when it contracts by increasing the space inside the chest cavity. In order for an animal to take in oxygen, the pressure inside the lungs must be less than the external pressure of the environment. When a mammal inhales, oxygen flows down the trachea and into the lungs. Once there, oxygen fills small air sacs in the lungs called alveoli. Then the oxygen is able to diffuse into the bloodstream through the capillaries. Gas exchange can only occur across moist surfaces. Fishes and amphibians do not have a problem with this because they are surrounded with water for the majority of their lives.
The most obvious difference between these two respiratory systems is that fish have gills for gas exchange and humans have lungs. Another difference between the two systems is the movement of the respiratory medium. Unidirectional means that the water only flows in one direction through the gills, while the oxygen in the air we breathe can move in any direction across our membranes in our lungs. They both work to do the same for each group, to oxygenate the oxygen-poor blood so that it can circulate through the body. The way that oxygen gets into the blood is the same for both systems, diffusion through a thin membrane that separates the respiratory medium and the blood. The last major difference is the use of alveoli in humans and lamellae in fish. These are where the exchange process occurs for both groups, but the structure of them is very different.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll return to the water with gills.